Hi, I'm Gavin, and welcome back to the S.O.U.N.D Project. So today we have Chris Karn from Vintage King on the podcast. It's so good to see you, man.
It's good to see you as well, definitely.
So we've known each other for maybe 4 years, 5 years, something like
that? Yeah, might have been a little bit. Yeah, somewhere around there, maybe a little bit longer. Yeah. I was a fan before we even met.
What? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I knew about you before you knew about me.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did you come across us?
I am a consummate gear studio nerd.
Yeah.
And, when helping people, even myself, try to improve our studios, I just go down the Google rabbit hole, and I found you, and I was like, oh, who's this guy? And then next thing I knew, I want to say like 2 or 3 weeks after that, we somehow connected, I think, through a mutual client.
Yeah.
And then pretty quickly after that, we had like a big meeting at Vintage King, big video conference call.
Yeah.
Yeah, which was really cool.
I remember that, yeah. And I think you actually might have been the first person from Vintage King to send me a project.
There was obviously momentum that we already had going, and yeah, it's been great. I think we've done together 3, maybe 4. 4. Wow.
4 of them, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, there's this one that we're sitting in, Chance Cube Studios, just south of Louisville. And you had introduced me to Robert Johnson, who you've been working with for a long time.
Awesome dude.
Yeah.
Really great guy.
No, he's the greatest. And also, we worked on Tone City recording, which was in Mix Magazine's Class of issue a couple years ago.
Yeah,
in Perth, Australia, and Sam Ford. And then Chris Crowdis in Carmel, California.
Another great guy, super smart, very excited about music. Yeah, he's a good dude. And
then the final one was Brant Ward in Connecticut.
Yes, who I need to talk to. I haven't talked to him in a minute.
Yeah.
Thanks for reminding me.
No, but I always know when you are bringing someone to us that they're going to be a great client and very serious about what they do, and so we just appreciate that. So
we greatly appreciate you. I mean, it says a lot when you go back to a studio designer more than once.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I guess when the phone stops ringing, that's when I'll be concerned.
Well, no, I mean, it's all referral based in this business, whether you're helping someone put together a vocal chain or, do something much larger like this. And that speaks mountains, It's like who you are and what you are as a person and as a professional enters the room well before you do, and it stays there when you leave.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. I mean, we always just try to treat people with kindness and do things at a high level and communicate well, and just hopefully at the end of the day they're happy. Yeah.
They have been.
Yeah. So I guess tell our audience a little bit about you. Like, how did you get into this world that we're in?
Oh, wow. Actually, probably we're here in Louisville, Kentucky. And my buddy Stuart Johnson, a local from Louisville, was probably the main reason why I got into the music business. I was playing in a band, touring around, and he was a drummer playing for this one artist, Matthew Sweet.
I love Matthew Sweet.
Yeah, he was touring on the 100% Fun record.
Nice. I think I saw that tour. So.
One of the greatest, if not the greatest of all time producer, mixer, engineers, Brendan O'Brien did.
Yes.
I'm a huge fan of Brendan. So needless to say, we did some shows together, and I befriended Stuart, and then Stuart encouraged me to get into music. And I became an artist and toured around and did quite a bit, and then started buying recording gear from Vintage King. And fast forward 20 years since then, I was a customer for Vintage King for like 20 years.
Yeah.
And then one day the owner of the company said, "Hey, how come you're not working for me?" And I just came over and continued my passion of helping people find great sounds.
Yeah.
And put stuff together.
That's awesome.
So that's where it started. That's kind of where it still is today,
Were you mostly interested in producing, or are you also artists as far as instrumentation goes?
Yeah. I still put stuff out.
Nice.
The audience is much smaller than when I was younger, but it's still a lot of fun to make records, and doing quite a bit of production still these days with some local artists, which is fun. Yeah, it's definitely a lot of fun.
That's awesome. So how long have you been working at Vintage King now?
Let me see. I want to say it was 9.5 years, and then I took a little break, and then I worked with my friends at PMC, and then realized that I was spending most of my time talking to my old clients about microphones and stuff and texting, like Robert.
Yeah.
Or Jason. You know, I call him by his middle name.
Yes.
Yeah. But I just found that I was talking to him all the time. And it was just kind of natural that, well, I was doing operations at PMC. I said, you know what, I'm going to come back and get back to what I can't help but do, which is help people with studios and recording gear and talk about compressors, microphones, even guitars, basses, all sorts of stuff that's outside of what Vintage King does.
That seems like a lot of fun for someone who loves that, to be able to then just have those conversations all day and help people get them pointed in the right direction for what they need.
Yeah. I mean, and especially since I come from more of like the vintage gear world, you know, I was collecting microphones and compressors and preamps back when you could actually afford the really expensive stuff that there is now. But the cool thing about that is all recording gear, you know, whether you're talking about 67s or 87s or U47s, or the new microphones or new counterparts that are made today, they're all based on the same circuit. So having knowledge about the old stuff that's super high end and the new stuff that's equally high end, it's just made now, and being able to actually compare it and help people go down that path and go, hey, I'm looking for this sound, but you know, I can't afford an old Telefunken 251. No one can get a TubeTex, you know, CL1B right now. I can't afford a real vintage 1073. How can I get close to that sound? And that's where I get to roll up my sleeves and go into full gear nerd mode and help them find that perfect sound.
That's really cool. How often do you get to go out to the people's studios that you help?
Locally, I'm pretty much always out there.
Yeah. Because you're in LA, right?
Yeah, I'm in LA, Orange County, like south of LA. So I'm kind of always out there as much as I can be. And sometimes it doesn't feel like work, because sometimes I'll be helping with tracking or some sort of a session like that, or I'll just be stopping by and having a coffee and catching up on what they're working on. It's kind of nice that way, because it doesn't feel like work. I feel that way too. It's like, I always tell people, I give talks at university sometimes, and it's, you know, I just tell people, find something you're passionate about and try to figure out how you can work in that, because then you don't feel like you're working. I mean, it's still the stresses of the job and everything like that, but you know, at the same time, I'd rather be doing something that I love than not. So absolutely. So what's as far as that goes, what's your favorite part of your job, of what you get to do? My favorite part of what I get to do is seeing people realize their dreams, their audio dreams. Like, you know, and it could be something small, like, hey, I'm trying to get this sound, and I think I need this, and I think I need that, and well, what do you have, and what are you using, and what are you trying to achieve? And sometimes they don't need anything from us at Vintage King. They may already have it in the studio. Have you tried this, and have you tried that? And that's exciting at that moment, where they call you back and they go, oh my God, that worked. And it's like, that's what I am trying to do. I'm trying to solve a problem for you. I'm trying to get you from point A to point B. Sometimes that does require, you know, a new piece, a cable, you know, your interface is outdated or something like that. But really getting people over the hump and getting them comfortable and back to creating music the way they've heard it in their head, and it's actually coming through the speakers now, that gets me super excited. For us, it's kind of that same thing, is that people a lot of times have been recording for years in a room that is not acoustically accurate, or it doesn't have the ambience that they would have wanted, but then once we were able to design something for them and build it, and then their eyes just get wide, like, wow, this is what I've been missing, you know. So if you can play a small part in that whole process, I think it's big. I mean, I remember the whole transition. I remember, you know, in the late 90s, the early 2000s, where everybody was excited about their Pro Tools rig and their Rack 1073s, and we could take this into a house and we can record whenever we want to, and it's just going to be so comfortable. And they moved out of studios, and they were like, great, this is comfortable. And then they realized, wow, some of this stuff doesn't sound acoustically as good as it does in the studios,
sure.
you know, and you can't use the room mics, or there's like a weird reflection coming off the floor for the acoustic guitar, or all that sort of stuff. And now at Vintage King, we're starting to see a resurgence of people, you know, I would say over the past like 8 to 10 years, more people being much more concerned about the acoustics in their environment. And it definitely pays off, you know. Taking a moment to find the best place in the room to set a kick drum for the best sound is way easier than spending hours on the backhand pulling your hair out, wondering why things aren't coming together.
Yeah, it's a big part of the equation. I mean, it's not. I can't say it's the most fun part is buying acoustical treatment or constructing some of these things. Like buying gear is obviously more of like a toy that you get, but arguably it's as important or not more important than what you have. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, you're right though. Nobody throws like a wall panel on a Lazy Susan and spins it around on Instagram and goes, check this out.
Yeah, look at this.
It's not as sexy as a piece of gear.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's it's very important. I mean, but also it's like the combination of both. It's like if you had an amazing room but horrible gear, it's not going to come out the way you want, or vice versa.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I finally realized that I needed a ceiling cloud. And the way I found out is I actually had friends hold a packing blanket, like two friends. I have two friends.
You got two friends? I mean, I'm one of them, so who's the other guy?
It was you and Robert.
Yeah.
But they grabbed the packing blanket, each with two hands, and I was listening to the music. And then all of a sudden I said, well, put it over. And then they would put it over the top of your head. Mm-hmm. And you could hear the reflection stop, things tighten up, and then take it away.
Yeah.
And then we each spent like, a couple minutes, each of us sitting in that position, minds getting blown, going, wow, that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it's the sum of all these parts. It's like in this room, we've got bass trapping, diffusion, absorption, and all of it has to come together to make what it is. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have a home studio then?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. It's over a 3-car garage. Mm-hmm. And I had a good friend of mine, Eric Wickstrom, who's a structural engineer. Mm-hmm. He re-engineered the floor, which would be the roof of the garage. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, the whole thing would have sagged. And then he separated it from the house. Okay. And then we have resilient channels that are decoupling the walls. Mm-hmm. And then double drywall and the whole shebang.
Nice.
And then we wanted to keep light. Mm-hmm. So we had double pane windows on the out, single pane on the inside.
Yeah.
So we have light coming through, but we're eliminating the noise going out.
Yeah.
All that stuff works great for trying to keep stuff in and keep stuff from coming out to in. Acoustically, I could have used your help, but I have some good panels in there, and it's finally after moving some stuff around, it's feeling better. But maybe one day, maybe during the NAMM show,
I was going to say I'd love to come by and check it out. That'd be really fun.
Yeah, that'd be great.
How often do you get to be in the studio these days?
I actually work from in that studio.
Oh, nice.
So I have my control area right there where I have the speakers and I have a SSL matrix, bunch of outboard gear, microphone, like the vocals area is like right over here to cut vocals because I like to cut vocals in the room. Mm-hmm. And then if I just spin this way, that's like my 9 to 5 work.
Okay.
Which I have to admit, every now and then I get distracted and I end up there for a couple minutes during lunchtime.
Or the other way around.
Yeah, it goes back and forth.
Yeah.
But I find that working at Vintage King, all that stuff intertwines because literally all I'm doing is I'm just trying to help people out.
Yeah.
And if one of my friends calls me or sends me a picture about a microphone and goes, hey, what's this? Yeah. It's like, I'm into it. I'm in. I hit pause and I get right into it.
It's awesome. So you have children, right?
Yeah, 2.
2. And are they into music as well?
They're really into concerts. They've gone to more concerts than I have.
Yeah.
I think they just both went to Mac DeMarco at the Greek.
Okay.
Yeah, they said that was a lot of fun.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then my son, he's studying film. He doesn't have to declare what he's going to study yet at college.
Sure.
But he's studying film and he's shooting like a lot of the radio band appearances at his college radio station.
That's fun.
And then he just shot a music video for a band called the Finns that I just did a music video. I just recorded a song with, and he shot the video for that.
That's fun.
And then I just had David Marquette from Mercury Recording Equipment in the studio, and we were mixing some of his stuff, and he's like, Judd does videos, bring Judd in, and we got Judd shooting a demonstrational video.
Wow.
Yeah, so keeping him busy.
Good experience.
Yeah, my daughter's totally into music as well.
Okay.
You know, she's although she doesn't do film, she's into engineering.
Oh, wow.
But like not audio engineering.
Oh.
Like structural engineering and environmental engineering.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Speaking of concerts, do you have a favorite concert you've ever been to?
Yeah. It was the Smiths, The Queen is Dead.
Nice.
And it ended early because too many people got pulled up on the stage.
Yeah.
And that was in 1987.
87. Because I knew you loved the Smiths because we talked about that early on when we first started talking together. But I was telling you a little bit earlier that I got to see Morrissey last year, and so I never saw the Smiths. But but that
I barely saw the Smiths.
Yeah,
like I said, the show was cut short, and I was pretty high up. I was like in the nosebleeds, but still, it was pretty killer.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's very cool. And as far as like your day-to-day job, I know it's a lot of working with customers and getting solutions for them and things, but how often do you get to just try out new gear, like by working there?
All the time.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's like you can't really talk about it if you don't know it.
Yeah.
So whenever something comes in, I try to take a moment to go up to the LA store and run through the paces of it. If it's a microphone, I try to get into the studio. If I get into a situation where it's like it's impossible to get it because it's very desirable or hasn't been released or whatever, then I'll go to one of my engineer friends that actually has one and find out what they feel about it. Someone that speaks, everybody speaks slightly different audio language. They speak the same language as me. So, after having a conversation with them, I can at least get an idea of what that piece is like and be able to, start a path of recommending it to someone. You definitely want to hear it for sure. Yeah. But every now and then, there's times where you can't hear stuff. Like an old Soundtech 250 EQ. Sure. Not everybody gets to hear those.
Yes.
There's not too many of them out there.
Nice. I was wondering too, like how often when you're talking to clients, does acoustics come up naturally from them versus you having to start that conversation?
Acoustics come up quite a bit, especially when we're talking about speakers. They tend to run hand in hand.
Yeah.
Because a listening position is extremely important. And treating that position is really important. People that are recording drums, sometimes acoustics will come up during that. And then vocals or voiceover. Yeah. So those are the main times that it really comes up.
Yeah.
But definitely with main speakers.
Yeah, that's usually the case if they're investing, especially buying new speakers. They want to put them in an environment that's great. And we get the call, obviously, a lot, too, with just sound isolation. Like, people are, like, disturbing their neighbors, and then suddenly, we got to fix that for them as best we can. But, I was just curious about how often that is something that someone's interested in, or if you're having to kind of guide that conversation when you're talking to clients.
No. It's something that you do bring up if there's a studio package that starts happening. But at that point, you've already talked about where everything's going, if there are going to be reflections on the walls. Have you thought about that?
Yeah.
But it always ends up coming up. It's inevitable.
Sure.
It may not be where they start.
Yeah.
And if the phone call that's where it's starting, then you really need to roll up your sleeves and work on something, because they're obviously calling with a problem. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you joining us on the podcast, Chris. It's just cool to sit down and talk. I know we talk on the phone and we email back and forth, but actually get to spend some time. It's been really great.
It's been really great. Yeah, definitely.
Thanks so much.
Oh, thank you.
Well, that's been another episode of the Sound Project. Thanks for being a part of it. If there's any pieces of gear that you haven't heard yourself that you'd love to hear someday and it's kind of your dream piece of gear, please comment below and we'll see you next week.